Hi there, this is Cam Shea, and I'm with the lovely Lucy O'Brien.
Hello, Cam.
How are you doing today?
I am fine. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. So we are
Excellent.
looking at the Beginner's Guide, which you've reviewed for IGN, and it's the newest game from Davey Wreden,
Yep.
the writer of the Stanley Parable,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very interesting title, this one.
It is a very interesting title. It's almost impossible to talk about,
Yeah,
but we're going to give it our best shot today.
because honestly, all the stuff we want to talk about is the stuff that we can't talk about.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this game so interesting. But I
Yeah.
think you'll get a sense for that as we discuss what we can talk about without spoiling anything.
Yep, absolutely.
So should we let Davey give us a bit of an introduction?
Let's listen to him.
Hi there. Thank you very much for playing The Beginner's Guide. My name is Davey Wreden. I wrote The Stanley Parable, and while that game tells a pretty absurd story, today I'm going to tell you about a series of events that happened between 2008 and 2011. We're going to look at the games made by a friend of mine named Coda. Now, these games mean a lot to me. I met Coda in early 2009 at a time when I was really struggling with some personal stuff, and his work pointed me in a very powerful direction. I found it to be a good reference point for the kinds of creative works that I wanted to make. So just to start you off, this is, I think, the first game he ever made. It's a level for Counter-Strike. You can walk around here, by the way. And mostly it's just Coda learning the basics of building a 3D environment. But what I like is that even though he starts from the simple aesthetic of a desert town, he then scatters these colorful abstract blobs and impossible floating crates around the level. And of course, it destroys the illusion that this actually is a desert town, and instead this level becomes a kind of calling card from its creator. It's like a reminder that this video game was constructed by a real person. And it kind of makes you wonder, what was going through his head as he was building this? This is what I like about all of Coda's games. I mean, not that they're all fascinating as games, but that they are all going to give us access to their creator. I want us to see past the games themselves. I want to get to know who this human being really is. And that's exactly what we're going to do here.
Cool. I would like to leave it there because I don't want to. This is not a walkthrough. But listen, that is the basic gist of the Beginner's Guide, and I'm just going to put this out straight. Some very simple things about this. It's on PC, and I guess I should flat out say from the get-go that I really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an incredibly thought-provoking.
Every single person who plays this game is going to get something different out of it.
Yes.
Because I played through it and really enjoyed it, and it left me with a lot of questions.
Yep.
So then I went and did a bit of reading and found out some stuff that I didn't know, about Davey in particular. And now I'm playing through it a second time, just with some ideas about trying to make different interpretations of what he's presenting you.
Yep, absolutely. So what the Beginner's Guide does is it takes you through Coda's work chronologically. Now,
Yep.
Coda was, as Reedon sort of explained just then, was a game developer who made a bunch of very interesting sort of experimental games that all had a sort of very similar curious motifs and things like that.
And that were influential on Wreden
on
himself.
Wreden himself. And so we are taken through his work, and Wreden is going to try and understand this man
Yep.
through his work. And basically,
Because we're dealing with somebody who's quite kind of insular, and
That's right.
And these are the games that have been made not for public consumption, and so Wreden's using them as a means to get to know this designer better and to make to discover what makes him tick and how
Absolutely.
he thinks about the world and all that kind of stuff.
absolutely, and answer the fundamental question: can a video game offer insight into the mind of its creator? So all of these games are narrated by Wreden, and I gotta say, Wreden is a really entertaining
He's great.
narrator.
Yeah, he's really great.
His commentary is succinct and interesting, and it dances from topic to topic very effortlessly.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's played the Stanley Parable knows that he's a great writer.
Yeah.
And that's very evident again here.
And this is Wreden's interpretation of Coda's designs. So when it's sort of basically game criticism. what we're actually listening to. It's Reden's own interpretation of what these games are trying to say.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's criticism so much as acknowledging that it's the work of a singular entity, and so rather than judging it on other standards, you judge it based on very intimate standards, and there's meanings beyond the obvious.
Oh no, absolutely. But it's very analytical, is what I'm trying to say. It's very, it goes deep into things that you may not sort of immediately realize or recognize when you first jump into this level. So essentially, you're sort of being guided by Reden, almost like a documentary or like a DVD commentary.
It's the best premise for a game. It's such an interesting premise. I really, really love this as a setup.
It's wonderful, and Reden does these wonderful little sort of tricks as well, which I suppose well, let's go and find one.
Apparently, this space station has a labyrinth on it. Sure, I don't know. There's really no reason for it that I've ever been able to discern, so in the interest of time, I'm just gonna skip you on past it.
That'll work. That works very nicely. So yeah, he kind of breaks the fourth wall.
He does. He breaks the fourth wall and he inserts his own. He'll speed things up, or he'll put a bridge across a sort of impossible area.
Yep.
Or he will just remove all the walls of a level so you can see the world in its entirety. And it's a really interesting way of being led around a game world.
Yeah, because it's saying, hey, guess what? The way you would play it as a player is not how it's perceived by its creator, because guess what? There's all this other stuff going on.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like a very, it's kind of figurative and literal the way he analyzes the games of Coda.
Let me pause here for a second. What you just experienced, stepping into the beam and then dying, is probably what Coda had initially intended when he was developing this level. But when he first compiles and plays it, something goes wrong. There's a bug somewhere. And this is what happens instead.
And just going back to that that sort of comment about the labyrinth, one other thing that I really like about the beginner's guide is that Reden is always like one step ahead of what you're thinking. Like he's very, just like it's the same as the Stanley Parable. Like he's very aware of the space that you're wandering around in, and the sorts of things that you're probably thinking as people who play video games, and he's going to comment on them.
Yeah, like that. There's a I think it might be even the next section where there's this giant kind of imposing monolithic buildings and this staircase up, and of course you go and explore, and he's like, yeah, there's nothing over here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it is very interesting. Even like if you're going to take this game at face value from the very beginning, that's a very interesting way of exploring a developer's work, particularly with the sort of initial kind of knowledge that this is being done without Coda's knowledge. Do you know what I mean? That this is Reden saying, okay, these are all Coda's games. I want to present them to you because I want to encourage Coda to get back into game design. It's just the whole thing from beginning to end conceptually is just very interesting and presents very, very challenging questions, about all sorts of things, about the nature of agency. I mean, should Reden have done this? Is this Reden's place to do this? And
that's right, because as our knowledge of Coda grows, our interpretation of Reden changes. I mean, very deliberately so. But that's what's so interesting about the way the game progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, there is not a hell of a lot more we can really talk about without spoiling the experience that is the beginner's guide. What we kind of wanted to do today is just to give you guys a sort of brief overview of what the game is and what Reden is. And
that's why we're not even going to skip ahead, because we basically want to present the opening of the game.
Yep.
There's as few spoilers as possible. It's a 90-minute experience.
It is. It's very short.
It's totally worth the money because there's nothing quite like this, and as I said before, everybody's going to have, it's very open to interpretation. Everybody's going to have their own ideas about what things mean and how various pieces fit together. So it's cool. It's a game that will have you thinking.
Yeah, it will, and it's, you know, even if it's a game that you don't necessarily like, if this isn't really your thing, I mean, I just think it's such an interesting game to talk about. Like, there's so much to dig into here. So yeah, I mean, on that basis alone, the way that it's sort of sat with me since I first played it, I'm giving it an 8. I think that it's unlike anything that you're going to play this year.
And and if you have to assign a numerical score,
if you have to assign a numerical score, which is like probably the most random thing you can possibly do with a project like this.
Yeah,
that's what I'm giving it.
I think 8's fair.
Yeah.
Like it's more. This is more than the sum of its parts, but also kind of less than some of its parts. It's just play the thing.
Just play it.
And then hopefully we can all have a chat about it.
Yep. Leave me your comments in the comment section under our review, because I am very interested to see what you think and hopefully have a discussion about it.
Yeah.
Cool. For more on the Beginner's Guide, stick with IGN.
Cool. Bye.
Bye.
It's a short little thought, it says what it wants to say, and then it ends. Didn't need anything more than that. Which to me is why it works, because it gets out quick.